AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Bora Beran. Bora is the VP of Products for 1010 Data. Bora, welcome to the show.
Thanks, JP. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So let's start a little bit of background of yourself, how you got involved in technology, some of the interesting roles you've held along the way before your current role here at 1010 Data.
I am an environmental scientist by training, which I guess is an unusual background for someone with my job title. So my entry into software industry was through technical computing, starting with developing computer simulations. During my PhD, I worked on a handful of National Science Foundation cyber infrastructure projects, which were all about making it easier for scientists to work with larger variety and volumes of data. My lucky break, I guess, was when Microsoft Research got involved in one of those projects, through which I met Turing Award winner Jim Gray, who offered me a job at his research labs. It was a great learning experience for me. I got to rub shoulders with lots of smart people working on big data problems long before big data became a marketing buzzword. After my postdoc, I moved to my first product role in what used to be Microsoft's supercomputing team, Windows HPC Server. After several other roles at Microsoft and later Tableau, I found myself again in the area of technical computing, this time heading a product team at Descartes Labs, a startup that applied computer vision and other machine learning methods to satellite imagery for supply chain insights.
Interesting background, especially having some great experiences with really well-known companies. I just want to get a bit of insight into supply chain because it comes full circle, particularly ties into your role now. But can you give us an example of how satellite and computer vision could translate into supply chain and how that could impact supply chain businesses?
Satellite data has been used for many years to detect and quantify natural resources. It was mostly done by governments because satellites were too expensive to build and put into orbit. Today, we have several private companies that can deliver your payload, SpaceX probably being the most notable one, and satellites went from the size of a minivan to that of a cereal box and have much better sensors. As a result, while 5 years ago we could get a full picture of the Earth roughly every 2 weeks, today we can get daily updates and much higher quality. When you combine all the satellites, we're talking about several tens of petabytes of new data every year. It is a lot of data to deal with, but once you have the right data infrastructure and machine learning tools, all that data allows answering many new business questions that were previously not possible. On the supply side, a good example would be crop forecasting. Imagine you need rice, hazelnuts, rubber, palm oil, name your crop. And you want to know how much product will be available for you to purchase at the end of the season. What's a good price to pay? How can you reduce your risk from a potential bad harvest? One would solve this problem by first identifying crop types, using imagery often involving wavelengths not visible to human eye, and classifying each pixel in the image using machine learning methods like random forest or gradient boosting. There could of course be other indicators like the pattern the crop is planted, different phases it goes through as it grows, but once the crops are identified, you would look at weather data for longer-term crop yield forecasts and run weather simulations for a short-term outlook like hail, frost, or flood damage. On the demand side, an interesting example would be microgrids. This is a quite large and fast-growing industry that aims to bring electricity to 1 billion or so people that still lack reliable access. The business question here is to find areas that could use microgrids and the size of the opportunity. One can start by looking for areas with no lights at night to identify an initial set of candidate regions, then look for existence of any local power supply, connectivity to central power grid. These are all deep learning computer vision sort of tasks. To identify power source options, you will look at solar and wind power potential, or proximity to agricultural waste and biofuels. And to quantify the demand, you may look at number of buildings, etc. So many different data sources, different algorithms to use, fun data science problems to solve with big real-life impact.
Interesting, some incredible stuff happening. So then take us to your most recent role, how you came about 1010 Data, and give us some insight of, for anyone who doesn't know, who 1010 Data are and some of the business problems you guys are solving.
1010 Data started in Wall Street 19 years ago to solve stock market's big data problem. New York Stock Exchange was one of 1010's first customers. Since there was no solution in the market at the time that could handle time series data of such scale, 1010 built its own database ground up. Shortly after, it became the de facto standard for mortgage-backed securities and fixed income analysis for Wall Street analysts. Another major vertical we play in is retail. Before the term cloud became a household name, 1010 built a private cloud to help retailers share their data with their suppliers in a secure and controlled manner, and make money in the process. And finally, we have an alternative data business. Our data science team anonymizes and analyzes data we get from our panel of 5 million US online shoppers and turns them into retail market insights. If you're a trader considering whether to sell, hold, or buy an online retailer stock, we can tell you how well the retailer is doing before the earnings call. If you are a manufacturer who wants to understand how well your competitors are doing in certain online outlets, or understand the overall trends in your category, we can help you with that too.
One of the things you touched on, which I want to go into a little bit more detail with, is the data sharing side of your business. Because when people hear of data sharing and access to external data, they may think of Google, Facebook, and how they're leveraging their data business. So it would be good to get some insight of the services you're providing around data sharing, but also to the opportunities out there for businesses who are not yet leveraging this untapped resource.
Data sharing, especially monetization, is an afterthought for many businesses, because a general assumption is that it's only the companies that offer free products that make money by selling their data. And there is some stigma associated with it due to privacy concerns about data sharing practices we are used to seeing, and the bad press surrounding them, like the Facebook Cambridge Analytica example from 2016 elections. Assume you are a supplier that does direct-to-store delivery. You need to know when to ship new products to avoid out of stocks, right? So that is warehouse inventory data. Well, that's a very high-level data product that involves no personally identifiable information. So are many other data products retailers can share safely with their suppliers. And many suppliers, believe it or not, are willing to pay to have access to such data because it helps them sell more product by optimizing their prices, planning promotions, new bundling strategies, etc. I would encourage all our listeners to think about how they can turn their data into a revenue stream for their company, and use data sharing as a means to better collaborate with their business partners to improve customer satisfaction, like the out-of-stock reduction example I shared earlier. Some businesses try to do this today already by emailing manually prepared Excel spreadsheets, which is full of problems: data security, freshness, and correctness, to name a few.
Here at Alldus, we want to make the hiring process easier for all. Whether you're an employer or an aspiring employee, we have the service for you. For full-time work, Alldus will partner with you to find the best person for the position. Using both our network and our rigorous qualification process, we ensure that only the best talent is shortlisted. We will manage the process and work with you to select our most suitable candidate for your organisation. We also offer excellent temp hiring services. At Alldus, we provide a great opportunity to help you and our candidate make the right choice. The contract period is one long interview for your full-time opening, and the extended experience with our consultant helps you make the best decision. Alldus International is here to quickly help you find the best AI candidate. Our experts stay in close contact with our consultants throughout the duration of the contract, ensuring they have everything they need to get the job done.
Bringing it back to yourself, it would be good to get some insight into what it is about your job that you love, what you enjoy doing from 1010 as a business, but the problems you're solving through data.
In the past decade, I built products that help people work with large data sets, clean and transform their data, train machine learning models at scale, create visualizations. I worked with data science teams that take raw data and convert them into data products. But these were all different products and at different companies. The exciting thing about 1010 Data is that 1010 builds products that tackle all of these problems. So instead of sensors, maybe it's sales transactions and stock tickers, but fundamentally it's the same set of problems. And I get to oversee all of it.
What excites you most about the next 3 to 5 years of not just with 1010, but the industry as a whole?
Retail is changing. People are getting more and more used to online shopping. If you look at numbers from a most recent Black Friday, share of online spend was 32%. That's a big increase from 17% 5 years earlier. For groceries, the change has been somewhat slower since margins are too low to cover the delivery costs. Average item price is $3, with 30% gross margin that leaves 90 cents for handling and delivery. So far, retailers passed that cost directly to consumers that either drove to the store to pick up their own stuff or relied on services like Instacart. But KPMG predicts that self-driving delivery vehicles will soon reduce the cost of delivery to 4 to 7 cents per mile. That, combined with micro-fulfillment centers, will significantly change the economics. And this is not too distant future we're talking about. Some grocery chains are already piloting these small distribution centers meant exclusively for online orders, so-called dark stores, where robots will pick items and package shipments. So a larger number of smaller stores, closer to customers, where short-range, low-cost, self-driving vehicles can deliver packages. The self-driving vehicle portion of this equation is also starting to gain momentum. UPS recently received FAA's approval to build a drone airline. They will be able to fly drones out of operator line of sight, day or night, carrying packages up to 55 pounds. Let's be honest. Nobody enjoys traditional grocery shopping experience. It's a chore, and it's a rather time-consuming one. According to USDA, an average US household spends almost 5 hours a month grocery shopping and drive a total of 50 miles for it. So how do you encourage people to visit physical stores? Well, make them into worthwhile experiences. We're already starting to see showroom concepts in apparel. One can imagine the same for groceries. Put your kids to the store's daycare facility while you take a cooking class, sample wine and cheese, choose what you like, and robots will have your shopping bags ready for you to pick up on your way out. Of course, there will also be a lot of synergies between physical stores and online delivery to give consumers a lot more flexibility. This is why we're seeing some online-first companies go into brick-and-mortar business. For example, sample in store, order online, or order online and return it to store. All of this means moving away from siloed online and brick-and-mortar businesses to an integrated supply chain that relies on machine learning to identify purchasing patterns and personalize offers, predict demand, understand marketing campaign effectiveness, and automatically identify and mitigate inventory management inefficiencies across channels. I call it retail renaissance, and 1010 Data will be right in the middle of it.
It would be interesting to get your perspective on, as the business has evolved and developed over time, what you see as being most important in experience and attitude for somebody to be successful in an environment like this.
Given 1010 Data operates in a number of different businesses, the roles we hire for range from data engineers and data scientists to solutions architects and software engineers. In terms of technical skills, our homegrown database is written in K, but in other departments, we develop in JavaScript and Python. Especially in customer-facing roles, we often look for experience in retail sector, but domain knowledge generally comes in handy in other roles as well. Ingredients to success at 1010, I would say teamwork, creativity, and a growth mindset. Because 1010 has many different products that work really well in tandem, and we would like to encourage team members to talk to each other, have cross-pollinate ideas, so we can deliver a much better customer experience. And as I was saying, retail is changing, and we talked about the history of the company, where we moved from being a backend for New York Stock Exchange to mortgage-backed securities, data sharing. So we are a very dynamic company, and we're constantly looking for ways to reinvent ourselves. So we expect our employees to think the same way as well.
Bora, this has been incredible. I think there's a lot of excitement in your voice when you talk about the future, and from the outside listening in, it's incredible to see what's coming down the line, and it's great to hear about how you guys are facilitating and contributing to that. This has been very informative. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thanks for having me.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.